Dr. Michael Chen stood at the front of the conference room, his white coat perfectly pressed and his smile confident. 200 doctors sat before him, listening to every word about his newest research on heart surgery techniques. At 42 years old, he was the youngest head of cardiovascular surgery at St. Vincent's Medical Center in Atlanta. His name appeared in medical journals. Other hospitals wanted to hire him. Medical students hoped to learn from him. When the presentation ended, doctors lined up to shake his hand. They praised his work. They asked questions. They wanted his advice. Michael felt the warmth of their respect. This was what he had worked for since medical school. This was success. His phone buzzed in his pocket. His assistant had sent his schedule for the week. Monday was packed with surgeries. Tuesday had consultations. Wednesday brought more surgeries. Thursday meant meetings with hospital administrators. Friday would be busy with patient rounds. Every day was full. Every day mattered. Michael drove home in his silver Mercedes, passing through the wealthy neighborhood where he lived. His house sat on a quiet street with old oak trees. Inside, his wife was making dinner. His 2 children were doing homework. Everything looked perfect from the outside, but something existed beneath the surface that Michael never examined too closely. It was a poison that had seeped into his thinking years ago, so slowly he never noticed it taking root. The next morning, Michael arrived at the hospital at 6. He checked on his post-surgery patients first. Mrs. Patterson, a 70-year-old white woman, had undergone triple bypass surgery 3 days ago. Michael spent 15 minutes with her, explaining every detail of her recovery. He held her hand when she expressed fear. He answered every question her daughter asked. 2 rooms down, Mr. Jerome Davis was recovering from the same type of surgery. Michael spent 3 minutes with him. He barely looked at the man's chart. He nodded when Mr. Davis tried to ask about his medication schedule, but walked out before the answer was complete. The nursing staff noticed. They always noticed. But Dr. Chen was powerful. He was respected. Who would challenge him? In the cafeteria, Dr. Chen sat with other senior physicians. Dr. Sarah Kim, a young Korean-American resident, tried to discuss a patient case. Michael listened carefully and gave detailed advice. When Dr. Marcus Thompson, a black cardiologist, tried to contribute to the conversation, Michael checked his phone and seemed distracted. Marcus noticed. He had noticed many times before. The pattern continued throughout the morning. Michael was brilliant with some patients and rushed with others. He was patient with some families and dismissive with others. The dividing line was always the same, though he would have denied it if anyone asked. He would have listed his achievements and pointed to his diverse staff. He would have called himself fair and professional. At noon, Michael received a call from hospital administration. The board wanted to honor him with another award, the Excellence in Patient Care Award. He would receive it at next month's gala. Michael smiled and accepted. He never saw the irony. His afternoon surgeries went well. Michael was genuinely talented. His hands were steady. His decisions were quick and usually correct. When he focused on the heart in front of him, he saw only the medical problem that needed fixing. It was easier that way. Hearts did not have skin colors. Arteries did not have backgrounds. In the operating room, Michael could forget the ugliness that lived in his mind. After surgery, he met with the family of his patient. The Johnsons were wealthy and white. They thanked him repeatedly. Mrs. Johnson hugged him. Mr. Johnson shook his hand firmly and mentioned they would make a donation to the hospital in Michael's name. These were the moments Michael loved. The gratitude, the respect, the confirmation that he mattered. His next patient consultation was different. The Williams family sat in the small consultation room. They looked worried and tired. Michael glanced at the chart. James Williams, 52 years old, construction worker. The man had come to the emergency room twice in the past month complaining of chest pain. Both times he was told it was probably stress or indigestion. Now his regular doctor had referred him to Michael for a full evaluation. Michael walked in and introduced himself quickly. He did not sit down. James Williams was a large man with kind eyes and rough hands that showed years of hard work. He stood up respectfully when Michael entered. His daughter Maya was with him. She was in her 20s wearing scrubs. A nursing student, Michael guessed. James explained his symptoms carefully. The pain in his chest came and went. It was worse when he worked. Sometimes it spread to his arm, He felt dizzy occasionally. His father had died of a heart attack at 55. His uncle had heart disease too. Michael listened, but not really. He had heard it all before. Overweight middle-aged man. Probably ate too much fried food. Probably did not exercise enough. Probably worried too much about money. These patients always had the same complaints. "I'll order some basic tests," Michael said, "but it's probably nothing serious. You need to reduce stress. Watch your diet. Lose some weight." Maya leaned forward. "Doctor, my father has been having these symptoms for 3 months. They're getting worse. Shouldn't we do a full cardiac workup? His family history is really concerning." Michael felt annoyed. He did not like when people questioned his judgment, especially when they were not even real nurses yet. "I've been doing this for 20 years, he said coolly. "I know what tests are necessary. We don't want to waste time and money on procedures that won't show us anything useful." James put his hand on his daughter's arm, quieting her. "Thank you, doctor," he said. "I trust your judgment. Whatever you think is best." His politeness made Michael feel justified. See, the man understood. He respected Michael's expertise. Not like the daughter who thought she knew better. Michael ordered a basic EKG and some blood work. Nothing extensive. Nothing that would take too much time. He had more important patients waiting. Patients with better insurance. Patients who donated to the hospital. Patients who looked like the people he had grown up around. He grew up in a small town where everyone looked the same. His parents never said hateful things directly, but he heard their comments. He noticed who they trusted and who they did not. He absorbed their fear of people who were different. By the time he reached medical school, these attitudes were so deep inside him that he thought they were just common sense, just the way things were. As Michael left the consultation room, James Williams called after him. "Dr. Chen, thank you for seeing me. My daughter is getting married in 2 months. I really want to be there healthy and strong to walk her down the aisle." Michael nodded without really listening and moved on to his next appointment. He forgot about James Williams within 5 minutes. There were more important things to think about. More important people to help. That evening, Michael went home to his perfect house in his perfect neighborhood.
He had dinner with his family.
He helped his son with homework. He watched television with his wife. He felt satisfied with his life. He felt proud of who he was. He never thought about the man who trusted him, the man who came to him for help, the man whose life depended on him taking those symptoms seriously. Michael Chen fell asleep easily that night. His conscience was clear. In his mind, he was a good doctor, a fair doctor, a doctor who treated everyone the same. He believed his own lie completely. 3 days passed. Michael Chen did not think about James Williams once. His schedule was busy as always. He performed 2 major surgeries. He attended 3 meetings. He reviewed cases with residents. He went to a fancy dinner where the hospital board discussed fundraising goals. On Wednesday evening, Michael was at home watching a documentary about medical breakthroughs when his phone rang. The hospital calling. He almost did not answer. He was off duty and tired, but something made him pick up. "Dr. Chen, this is Dr. Rodriguez in the ER. We have James Williams here, the patient you saw on Monday." He collapsed at home. "We're running tests now, but it looks serious. I wanted to let you know since you're his cardiologist." Michael felt a flash of irritation. He was not really the man's cardiologist. He had just done 1 consultation. "What are his symptoms?" he asked. "Severe chest pain, shortness of breath, irregular heartbeat." His daughter brought him in. She says the symptoms have been getting worse since Monday, but he kept saying the doctor told him it was nothing serious. Something cold moved through Michael's stomach. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, he said. He drove to the hospital faster than he should have. His mind was racing. The basic tests he had ordered on Monday showed nothing alarming. Just slightly elevated cholesterol. Nothing that screamed emergency. But he had not ordered the stress test. He had not ordered the cardiac catheterization. He had not taken the family history seriously enough. When Michael reached the emergency room, he found James Williams on a bed surrounded by medical equipment. The man's face was gray with pain. Sweat covered his forehead. Maya stood beside him, holding his hand. Her eyes were red from crying, but her face was angry when she saw Michael. Dr. Rodriguez, a short woman with sharp eyes, pulled Michael aside. "His EKG shows ST elevation. We're looking at a major cardiac event. I've called for the cath lab to be prepared. We need to get him up there now. Michael looked at the EKG printout. His trained eye saw immediately what he had missed on Monday. This was not stress. This was not indigestion. This was severe coronary artery disease. The kind that killed people. The kind that should have been caught days ago. I'll take him up myself, Michael said. His voice sounded strange in his own ears. They rushed James Williams to the catheterization lab. Michael's hands worked automatically, doing what they had done hundreds of times before. He inserted the catheter into the artery in James's groin. He guided it up toward the heart. He injected the dye that would show him what was happening inside. What he saw on the screen made his breath stop. 3 major arteries were severely blocked. One was almost completely closed. This man should have been in surgery days ago. This man should have been monitored closely. This man should never have been sent home with advice to reduce stress. We need to do emergency bypass surgery, Michael said to the team. Now tonight, he won't survive without it. The next 4 hours were the longest of Michael's career. He opened James Williams's chest and held the man's life in his hands. He grafted new vessels to bypass the blocked arteries. He worked with a focus he had never felt before. Every stitch mattered. Every decision was critical. The surgery went well technically. Michael's skills saved James Williams' life. But he knew as he closed the chest cavity that the damage was already done. The heart muscle had been starved of oxygen for too long. Scar tissue had formed. James Williams would survive, but his heart would never be the same. At 3 in the morning, Michael walked out to the waiting room. Maya jumped up when she saw him. Her younger brother was with her now, and an older woman who looked like James's mother. They all stared at Michael with desperate hope. The surgery went well, Michael said. Your father is alive, but his heart sustained significant damage. We won't know the full extent until he wakes up and we can do more tests. Maya's face twisted with emotion. Relief and anger fought for control. Why wasn't this done on Monday? She asked. Her voice was quiet but sharp. I told you his symptoms were serious. I told you about the family history. Why didn't you listen? Michael opened his mouth but no words came out. What could he say? That he had been too busy? That he had not thought James Williams was worth his full attention? That he had made assumptions based on nothing medical? I'm sorry, he finally said. The words felt empty and useless. Sorry? Maya's voice rose. Sorry? My father almost died because you didn't take him seriously. He trusted you. We trusted you. Other people in the waiting room were watching now. A security guard moved closer, ready to intervene if needed. But Maya just shook her head and sat down heavily in her chair. Her brother put his arm around her. The older woman was crying silently. Michael walked away. He went to his office and closed the door. He sat in the dark for a long time. His mind replayed the consultation from Monday. He remembered his impatience, his dismissiveness, the way he had barely looked at James Williams as a person, the way he had ignored Maya's concerns. If James Williams had been white and wealthy, would Michael have ordered more tests? Would he have been more thorough? Would he have listened more carefully? The answer made him sick. Over the next 2 days, as James Williams lay in the ICU recovering, Michael watched his world begin to crack. Nurse Rodriguez filed a complaint with the hospital's patient safety committee. She had noted everything. The minimal consultation time. The basic tests when more extensive ones were clearly needed. The pattern of different care for different patients. The committee pulled Michael's records. They looked at his patient interactions over the past year. They interviewed staff members who had been afraid to speak up before. The pattern was clear and undeniable. Black patients waited longer for appointments. They received less time during consultations. Their symptoms were taken less seriously. Their pain was treated as exaggerated. Dr. Marcus Thompson, the black cardiologist Michael had ignored in the cafeteria, was part of the review committee. He looked sad rather than angry when he presented the findings. Michael, this has to stop, he said. This isn't just about one patient. It's about dozens, maybe hundreds over the years, Michael wanted to argue. He wanted to defend himself. He wanted to say it was not about race. But the evidence was there in black and white, in numbers and records and testimonies. He could not lie to himself anymore. The hospital administration called an emergency meeting. Michael sat across from the chief medical officer and the director of patient care. They looked disappointed rather than angry, which somehow felt worse. "We're suspending you pending a full investigation," the chief medical officer said. "This is serious, Michael. Very serious. We're talking about potential malpractice. We're talking about systematic discrimination in patient care. Your medical license could be at risk." Michael felt the floor drop out from under him. His license. His career. Everything he had built. Everything he had worked for since medical school. All of it could disappear. "James Williams is going to survive," the director of patient care said. "But he'll never fully recover. His heart function is permanently reduced. He can't go back to construction work. He'll need medication for the rest of his life. He'll live with the consequences of your negligence forever." The word negligence hit Michael like a physical blow. He was not negligent. He was careful. He was skilled. He was respected, but he was also racist. The word formed in his mind for the first time with clarity, not the violent, obvious racism of hatred and slurs, but the quiet, insidious racism of assumptions and dismissals. The racism that said some lives mattered less than others. The racism that made him spend 15 minutes with one patient and 3 minutes with another. Michael left the hospital that day not knowing if he would ever return as a doctor. News of his suspension spread quickly through the medical community. Other hospitals heard. Medical journals heard. His colleagues heard. His phone started ringing. Other doctors who had respected him now wanted distance. The medical conference that had invited him to speak next month called to uninvite him. The Excellence in Patient Care Award was quietly withdrawn. At home, his wife looked at him with confusion and disappointment. "How did this happen?" she asked. "How did I not see this?" Michael did not have an answer. He had hidden it even from himself for so long. That night, he lay awake thinking about James Williams. The man who had thanked him politely even when Michael rushed through the appointment. The man who had trusted his judgment. The man who wanted to walk his daughter down the aisle at her wedding. Had Michael stolen that from him? Had his prejudice taken away those moments of joy? The questions burned in Michael's mind. For the first time in his life, he was forced to look at himself clearly. What he saw made him want to look away. But he could not anymore. The mirror had been held up and the reflection was ugly. The investigation took 3 weeks. 3 weeks during which Michael Chen's life fell apart piece by piece. He was not allowed to see patients. He was not allowed to perform surgeries. He sat at home while lawyers and investigators went through years of his medical records. The news leaked to the media on day 5. A reporter from the Atlanta Journal got the story. Prominent surgeon suspended after alleged racial bias in patient care. The headline appeared online first, then in the print edition. By evening, local television news was covering it. Michael's phone exploded with messages. Some were from colleagues expressing disappointment. Some were from former patients defending him. Some were from strangers calling him terrible names. He stopped reading them after a while. His wife, Sarah, sat with him at the kitchen table. "Michael, tell me the truth, all of it. No more hiding," so he told her. About the assumptions he made. About the different ways he treated patients. About the voices from his childhood that had taught him to see people as less than human, based on the color of their skin. About the comfortable lie he had lived for 20 years. Sarah cried. Not because she was surprised, she admitted. She had seen small signs over the years, but had convinced herself she was imagining things. "I didn't want to believe the man I married could be like that," she said. Their children heard the news at school. Other kids had seen their parents watching the television coverage. Michael's daughter came home in tears. "Dad, everyone is saying you're racist. They're saying you hurt people on purpose." Michael wanted to explain that it was not on purpose, that he had never intended to harm anyone. But intention did not matter when the result was the same. James Williams's damaged heart did not care about Michael's intentions. The hospital's investigation concluded on day 21. The review committee presented their findings to the medical board. Michael was required to attend the meeting. He sat in a conference room while they read the report. Numbers and statistics painted a clear picture. Black patients waited an average of 32 minutes longer for appointments with Dr. Chen. Their consultations were 40% shorter on average. They received fewer diagnostic tests. Their pain complaints were documented as less severe in his notes, even when objective measures showed otherwise. One investigator presented a case that made Michael close his eyes in shame. A black woman with chest pain had been told by Michael that she was probably just anxious. She had a heart attack 2 weeks later. Another doctor saved her life. Michael had never even remembered her name. There are at least 12 cases where patients received inadequate care, the lead investigator said. James Williams' case is the most severe, but it's not isolated. This represents a pattern of discriminatory practice that violates every principle of medical ethics. Dr. Marcus Thompson spoke next. His voice was calm but firm. I've known Michael for 8 years. We've worked together on cases. I've seen his skills as a surgeon. He's brilliant when he wants to be. But brilliance without compassion is dangerous. Brilliance without equity is harmful. Michael has taken an oath to do no harm, and he's broken that oath repeatedly through his bias. The medical board asked Michael if he wanted to respond. He stood up slowly. His hands were shaking. I have no defense, he said. His voice sounded hollow. Everything in that report is true. I've spent 20 years believing I was a good doctor, while failing the patients who needed me most. I convinced myself my decisions were based on medical judgment when they were really based on prejudice. I'm ashamed. I'm sorry, and I know that's not enough. The board chair, an older woman named Dr. Patterson, looked at him with disappointment. Dr. Chen, your medical skills are not in question. Your character is. We will make our decision about your license within the week. Michael left the meeting knowing his career might be over. Part of him thought it should be over. How many people had he harmed over the years? How many had suffered because of his bias? The numbers in the report were just the ones they could prove. How many others had there been? That evening, he received a letter from the hospital's legal department. James Williams had the right to file a malpractice lawsuit. The hospital would support whatever decision James made. They included contact information for the Williams family's lawyer. Michael expected the lawsuit. He deserved it. He had already contacted his own lawyer to prepare. His malpractice insurance would cover the financial damages, but nothing could repair the harm he had done. 2 days later, another letter arrived. This one was from the hospital administration. They wanted to arrange a mediated meeting between Michael and James Williams. It was part of their restorative justice program for medical errors. Both parties had to agree to participate. Michael's lawyer advised against it. Anything you say could be used against you in court, she warned. It's too risky, but Michael agreed anyway. He needed to face James Williams. He needed to see what his prejudice had cost. He could not hide behind lawyers and insurance companies anymore. The meeting was scheduled for the following Monday at 2 p.m. Michael barely slept the night before. He kept imagining what James would say, what James had every right to say. The anger, the accusations, the demands for justice. He arrived at the hospital 30 minutes early. His hands were sweating. His heart was racing with anxiety. The irony was not lost on him. His heart was fine. James Williams' heart was permanently damaged because of him. A hospital mediator, a kind-faced woman named Mrs. Chen, who was no relation, met him in the hallway. Dr. Chen, thank you for coming. I want to explain the process before we begin. This meeting is not a legal proceeding. It's an opportunity for healing and understanding. Mr. Williams will share how your actions affected him. You'll have a chance to respond. The goal is not to assign blame, but to acknowledge harm and explore paths forward. Michael nodded. He understood the words, but felt numb. They entered a small conference room. James Williams sat in a wheelchair near the window. The sight of him made Michael's chest tighten with guilt. James looked thinner than before. His face was tired. A portable heart monitor was attached to his chest, its quiet beeping a constant reminder of his condition. Maya sat next to her father, her arms crossed. Her eyes were hard when she looked at Michael. Every bit of trust and politeness from their first meeting was gone. In its place was protective anger. James's mother was there too, and his son, a young man in his early 20s wearing a construction company shirt like his father's. They all looked at Michael with varying degrees of anger, hurt and suspicion. Michael sat down across from them. The mediator sat at the head of the table. Thank you all for being here, the mediator began. Mr. Williams, when you're ready, please share your statement. James Williams looked at Michael for a long moment. His eyes were not filled with the rage Michael expected. Instead, they looked sad and disappointed. Somehow that was worse. Dr. Chen, James began, his voice quiet but steady. I came to you because people said you were the best. I was scared. My father died when I was young from a heart attack. I didn't want to leave my children the same way. I trusted you to take care of me." Michael felt tears burning in his eyes but forced himself to keep looking at James. This was the least he could do. Bear witness to the pain he had caused. "When you barely looked at me, when you rushed through our appointment, I thought maybe I was wasting your time," James continued. "I thought maybe I was being dramatic about my symptoms. You're the expert, right? You know better than me. So I went home and tried to ignore the pain, tried to push through it like I always do." Maya's hand tightened on her father's arm. James took a breath before continuing. 3 days later, I was on my living room floor thinking I was going to die. My daughter saved my life by getting me to the hospital. But the doctor said if I'd been treated earlier, my heart wouldn't have been damaged so badly. James's voice cracked slightly. "I can't work anymore, Dr. Chen. I've been a construction worker for 30 years. I take pride in my work, in providing for my family, in being useful. Now I get tired walking to the mailbox. I can't lift my grandson. I can't help my son on job sites. I'm 42 years old and I feel like an old broken man." The monitor beeped steadily in the silence that followed. Michael wanted to disappear. He wanted to undo everything. He wanted to go back to that Monday and do it right. But time only moved forward and consequences were permanent. "My daughter's wedding was supposed to be in 6 weeks, James said, and now his voice did break. She moved it up. Had it in the hospital chapel 2 weeks ago because she wasn't sure I'd survive to the original date. I walked her down the aisle attached to monitors and machines. I could only dance with her for one song before I had to sit down." Maya was crying now, silent tears running down her face. James wiped his own eyes. "I need you to understand something, Dr. Chen. I'm not just a case file. I'm not just a patient. I'm a father who wanted to see his children grow up. I'm a grandfather who wants to watch his grandson learn to walk. I'm a man who had dreams and plans and hopes. And you took that away from me because you didn't see me as fully human." The words landed like physical blows. Michael's throat was tight. His chest hurt. His whole body hurt with the weight of what he had done. James Williams looked at him steadily. "I've spent 3 weeks thinking about what I want to say to you, what I want from you, and I still don't have all the answers, but I needed you to see me. Really see me. Not as a problem to solve quickly, or an inconvenience in your schedule, but as a person whose life mattered just as much as any of your other patients." Michael finally spoke, his voice breaking. "Mr. Williams, I see you, and I'm so sorry. You're right about everything. I failed you in the worst possible way. I had the knowledge and skills to help you, and I didn't use them because of my own ugliness. Because of prejudice I didn't even admit I had. I can't undo what I did. I can't give you back your health. But I see you now, and I will carry the weight of what I did to you for the rest of my life." The mediator looked between them. "Mr. Williams, Dr. Chen has apologized. Do you have anything else you want Dr. Chen to know?" James nodded slowly. "I do. I want him to know that I've been praying about this situation since I was able to pray again. Praying about what to do. What's right. What's just." He paused and everyone in the room leaned forward slightly, waiting. "And I think I've found my answer," James said. "But before I share it, I need Dr. Chen to answer one question honestly. If you get your license back, if you get to be a doctor again, will you be different? Will you truly change? Or will this just be a setback you recover from before going back to the way things were?" Michael looked into James Williams's eyes. This was the most important answer he would ever give. "I can never go back to who I was," Michael said. "That person is gone. He has to be gone. If I practice medicine again, it will be with the knowledge that every patient is someone's father or mother or child. Every patient deserves my full attention and my best care, regardless of anything except their medical need. I can't promise I'll be perfect, but I promise I'll spend every day trying to be worthy of the trust patients place in me, trying to be worthy of the second chance I don't deserve." James nodded slowly. The room was silent except for the steady beep of the heart monitor. That small sound that marked the damaged but still beating heart of the man Michael had failed. Whatever James Williams was about to say next would change everything. James Williams sat quietly for a moment, his hands folded in his lap. The portable heart monitor continued its steady rhythm. Michael Chen held his breath, waiting for judgment. He expected anger. He expected demands. He expected punishment. He deserved all of it. Maya leaned forward, her eyes still red from crying, but her voice was strong. "Dad, you don't have to do this. He doesn't deserve anything from you. He almost killed you. James put his hand over his daughter's. I know, baby. I know. He looked back at Michael. Dr. Chen, my daughter is right. You don't deserve forgiveness. You don't deserve mercy. By every measure of justice, you should lose everything. Michael nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. But I've been thinking a lot these past few weeks, James continued.
Lying in that hospital bed, I had a lot of time to think.
About life, about death, about what matters, and about what happens when we let hate and anger consume us. He shifted in his wheelchair and Michael could see the effort it took. Simple movements that used to be automatic now required thought and energy. When I was growing up, my father taught me something important before he died. He said that holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. He said that in a world with so much hate already, choosing forgiveness is an act of rebellion. Maya shook her head.
Dad, this is different.
This isn't about some small thing. He endangered your life. I know, James said gently. And I'm not saying what Dr. Chen did was okay. I'm not excusing it. I'm not pretending the harm isn't real. Look at me. I'm living with that harm every single day. He looked at Michael again, and there was something in his eyes that Michael could not quite understand. Pain, yes. Disappointment, yes. But also something that looked like determination. I'm not going to sue you, Dr. Chen, James said. The room went silent. Even the mediator looked surprised. What? Maya stood up from her chair. Dad, no. You can't be serious. I'm serious, James said calmly. He almost killed you. Maya's voice rose. He didn't take you seriously because of the color of your skin. He deserves to be held accountable. And he will be held accountable, James said. Just not by me in that way. Michael finally found his voice. Mr. Williams, why? I don't understand. I deserve to be sued. I deserve to lose my license. I deserve everything that could happen to me. James looked at him steadily. You're right. You do deserve it. But me suing you, me taking everything from you, what does that accomplish? Does it heal my heart? Does it undo the damage? Does it make the world a better place? It would be justice, Maya said, her voice breaking. It would be holding him accountable for what he did to you. Justice and revenge are not the same thing, James replied. And I've seen too much of what revenge does to people. It consumes them. It becomes their whole world. I won't let what Dr. Chen did to me also destroy who I am. Michael's lawyer, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, looked confused. She had come prepared for settlement negotiations, for legal demands. Not for this. James's son spoke for the first time.
Dad, I respect what you're trying to do.
But he needs to face consequences. Real consequences, he will, James said. Just hear me out. All of you, please. The room settled back into quiet attention. James took a breath, his hand going to his chest where the monitor was attached. Dr. Chen, I'm not suing you, but I have conditions. Requirements that you need to meet if you want my forgiveness, if that even matters to you. It matters, Michael said quickly. It matters more than anything. First, James said, you need to go through real training about racial bias. Not just some quick seminar. Real deep work to understand how prejudice affects your decisions. And you need to let the hospital monitor your patient care closely for years, not just months. Michael nodded. Yes, absolutely. Second, if you get to practice medicine again, you need to volunteer in underserved communities. Free clinics. Places where people who look like me can't afford fancy doctors. You need to give back to the people your bias has harmed. I will, Michael said. I promise. Third, James's voice got quieter. You need to tell your story. Publicly. Other doctors need to hear what happened. Medical students need to learn from your mistakes. You need to be willing to stand up and admit what you did wrong so that other patients don't suffer like I did. The thought of public shame made Michael's stomach turn, but he knew James was right. I'll do it. Whatever it takes. And finally, James said, I want you to help me with something. My medical bills are enormous. The hospital is covering some of it, but not everything. My family is struggling. I can't work anymore. My wife is trying to work extra shifts at her job. My son is taking on extra construction work. We're drowning in bills and stress. Michael leaned forward. I'll help. However much you need. I'll sell my house if I have to. I don't want your house, James said, but I need financial help. For my medications, for my follow-up care, for the life I have to rebuild. The hospital has agreed to a settlement, but I want you personally committed to helping, not through insurance. through you making this right. Done, Michael said without hesitation. I'll set up payments immediately. Whatever you need. Maya was shaking her head, tears streaming down her face. Dad, why are you being so generous to him? He doesn't deserve this. James reached for his daughter's hand. Baby, look at me. I'm 42 years old. I might live another 30 years with this damaged heart, or I might not. I don't know. But I know I don't want to spend whatever time I have left consumed by bitterness. I don't want to waste my energy on hate. But he hurt you, Maya whispered. He did, James agreed. And he's going to live with that guilt for the rest of his life. That's his punishment. My punishment would be carrying around anger that eats me alive from the inside. I won't do that to myself. I won't let his prejudice also steal my peace. The mediator spoke gently. Mr. Williams, this is an incredibly generous position, but you should understand that by not pursuing legal action, you're giving up certain rights and remedies. I understand, James said. I've talked to lawyers. I know what I'm giving up. But I also know what I'm gaining. My soul, my peace, my ability to move forward. He looked at Michael again. Dr. Chen, I'm offering you something precious. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve to be free of the burden of hate. But if you take this gift and waste it, if you go back to your old ways, if you don't truly change, then my mercy was meaningless, and that would be the greatest insult of all. Michael felt tears running down his face. Mr. Williams, I swear to you, I will spend the rest of my life proving worthy of this. I will change. I will be better. I will use this second chance to help people, to really help people in a way I never did before. See that you do, James said quietly. Maya wiped her eyes and looked at Michael with an intensity that made him want to look away. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, Dr. Chen. I won't forget what you did to my father. I won't forget that he almost died because you didn't see him as human. And if you ever practice medicine again, I'll be watching. If I hear that you've gone back to your old ways, if I hear about another patient being treated the way you treated my dad, I will make sure everyone knows. I will tell your story everywhere. Do you understand? I understand, Michael said, and I welcome that accountability. I need it. James's son spoke again, his voice hard. My father is a better man than you'll ever be. He's giving you grace you don't deserve. Don't waste it. I won't, Michael promised. The mediator looked between them. So we're clear. Mr. Williams is agreeing not to pursue a lawsuit. The hospital will still provide a settlement for medical expenses and ongoing care. Dr. Chen is agreeing to financial assistance beyond the hospital settlement. He's agreeing to bias training, supervised practice if his license is reinstated, community service in underserved areas, and public acknowledgement of his mistakes. Is that correct? Both James and Michael nodded. This is highly unusual, the mediator said, but if both parties agree, we can move forward with this arrangement. James's mother, who had been silent throughout the meeting, finally spoke. Her voice was soft but firm. James, are you sure about this? I'm sure, Mama, James said. I've prayed on it. I've thought about it from every angle. This is what feels right. She nodded slowly. Your father would be proud of you. He always said you had his heart. Strong and full of grace. The irony of those words given James's damaged heart made everyone in the room pause. Michael spoke again, his voice thick with emotion. Mr. Williams, I need you to know something. What you're doing today, this mercy you're showing me, it's not weakness. It's the strongest thing I've ever witnessed. You could destroy me and you'd be justified. Instead, you're choosing to believe I can be better. That's more than I deserve. That's more than most people could give. Maybe, James said. But I'm not most people. And honestly, Dr. Chen, this isn't entirely selfless. I'm doing this for me too. I'm doing it because I need to move forward. I need to heal not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. And I can't do that if I'm tied up in lawsuits and anger for the next several years. He looked down at his hands, at the IV mark still visible on his arm from his hospital stay. I've been given a second chance at life, even if it's a diminished life. You're getting a second chance at your career and your character. Let's both make the most of what we've been given. Michael nodded, unable to speak. The mediator began drawing up the agreement. Maya sat back down, her hand still holding her father's, her face a mixture of love for her father and lingering anger at Michael. She looked at Michael one more time. My dad is offering you forgiveness, she said. But forgiveness has to be earned every day. It's not a one-time thing. You have to prove over and over again that you've changed. That's the work ahead of you. I understand, Michael said, and I'm ready to do that work. As the meeting concluded and papers were signed, Michael felt the weight of what had just happened. He had walked into this room expecting to be destroyed. Instead, he had been given a gift he did not deserve and could never repay. A gift that came at great cost to the man who gave it. James Williams, with his damaged heart and limited future, had chosen mercy over vengeance. He had chosen freedom over bitterness, and in doing so, he had shown Michael what true strength looked like. As Michael prepared to leave, James called out to him one last time. Dr. Chen, one more thing. The hardest part of what I'm giving you isn't the forgiveness. It's the responsibility. You now have to carry the weight of what I've given you. You have to live up to it. That's heavier than any punishment could be. Michael met his eyes. I know, and I'm ready to carry it. James nodded. Then go. Change. Become the doctor you should have been all along. Not for me. For all the patients who will come to you in the future. For all the lives you still have a chance to save if you do this right. Michael walked out of that room a different man than he had been when he entered. The road ahead would be long and difficult. The work would be hard. But he had been given something precious and rare. A second chance born from the grace of someone he had deeply harmed. Now he had to prove he was worthy of it. The news of James Williams's decision not to sue spread through the medical community like wildfire. Most people could not understand it. Michael's colleagues called him lucky. His lawyer called it a miracle. The hospital's legal team was relieved. But Michael knew it was not luck or a miracle. It was grace, pure and undeserved. The medical board held their final hearing 2 weeks after the mediation meeting. Michael sat before them, no longer trying to defend himself or minimize what he had done. He laid out every failure, every bias, every patient he had shortchanged. He held nothing back. Dr. Patterson, the board chair, listened carefully. When Michael finished, she removed her glasses and rubbed her eyes tiredly. Dr. Chen, in my 30 years on this board, I've never seen a case quite like this. The evidence of biased care is clear and disturbing. By all rights, we should revoke your license permanently. You violated the fundamental principles of medical ethics. Michael nodded. He had prepared himself for this outcome. However, Dr. Patterson continued, we've also received Mr. Williams's statement. He's asked us not to permanently revoke your license. He believes you can change and that you can serve patients better in the future. His faith in you is remarkable given what you put him through. She leaned forward. We're going to reinstate your license with strict conditions. You'll undergo 6 months of intensive bias training. You'll work under supervision for 2 years. Every patient interaction will be monitored and reviewed. You'll volunteer 20 hours per month at free clinics serving minority communities. You'll speak at medical schools about your failures so other doctors can learn. And if there's even one indication that you're falling back into old patterns, your license will be revoked permanently. Do you accept these terms? Yes, Michael said immediately. Thank you. I'll meet every condition. I promise. Don't thank us, Dr. Patterson said. Thank Mr. Williams. He's giving you something you don't deserve. Make sure you're worthy of it. Michael left the hearing with his license intact but forever changed. He was no longer the celebrated surgeon who everyone wanted to work with. He was the doctor who had failed, who had let bias cloud his judgment, who had almost killed a patient through negligence. That reputation would follow him forever. Good, he thought. He should never be allowed to forget. The bias training began the next week. Michael sat in a small classroom with 5 other healthcare providers who had been mandated to attend. A black psychologist named Dr. Imani Brown led the sessions. On the first day, Dr. Brown did not let them ease into the topic gently. She showed them statistics. Black patients were more likely to have their pain undertreated. Black women were more likely to die in childbirth. Black children were less likely to receive proper medical care. The disparities were stark and undeniable. These aren't just numbers, Dr. Brown said. These are people. Someone's mother, someone's child, someone's spouse. And the common factor in all these cases is healthcare providers who carry unconscious bias into their work. She looked directly at Michael, or in some cases conscious bias that they've refused to examine. The training was brutal. They had to watch recordings of patient interactions and identify bias. They had to examine their own case files and find patterns. They had to sit with the discomfort of realizing how deeply prejudice had affected their practice. Michael discovered that his bias went deeper than he thought. It was not just about race. He had also given better care to wealthy patients than poor ones, better care to educated patients than those who struggled to understand medical terminology, better care to patients who were polite and grateful than those who were anxious or demanding. He had been sorting people into categories his entire career, worthy and unworthy, important and unimportant, and his care had reflected those unconscious rankings. The first step is recognizing it, Dr. Brown said during one session. The second step is doing the internal work to change it. And the third step, the hardest step, is maintaining that change every single day for the rest of your career. While the training continued, Michael started his community service. He volunteered at the Southside Community Health Clinic, a small facility that served mostly Black and Latino patients. Many had no insurance. Many worked multiple jobs and could only come in on weekends. Many had waited years to see a doctor because they could not afford it. The clinic's director, Dr. Jamal Washington, was skeptical when Michael first arrived. "I heard about what happened with James Williams," he said. "I'm only taking you on because the medical board requires it and because we desperately need doctors. But I'm watching you. My patients have been failed by the healthcare system their whole lives. I won't let you fail them too." "I understand," Michael said. "I'll do my best." "Your best better be excellent," Dr. Washington replied. "These folks deserve the same quality of care that your wealthy patients got. Actually, they deserve better because they've been denied for so long." Michael's first patient at the clinic was a woman named Mrs. Garcia. She was 65 and had not seen a doctor in 8 years. She had high blood pressure, uncontrolled diabetes, and arthritis that made it hard to work. She cleaned houses for a living and could not afford to take time off. Michael spent an hour with her. He listened to every symptom. He explained everything in simple terms. He arranged for free medication samples and connected her with a diabetes education program. He treated her with the same care and attention he used to reserve for his wealthiest patients. When Mrs. Garcia left, she had tears in her eyes. "Thank you, doctor. You actually listened to me. You treated me like I mattered." Her words cut Michael deeply. How many patients had he made feel like they did not matter? How many Mrs. Garcias had left his office feeling dismissed and unheard? Each weekend, Michael returned to the clinic. He saw elderly people with untreated chronic conditions. He saw young mothers who had delayed their own care to afford care for their children. He saw working men who came in with injuries they had been ignoring because they could not miss work. Every patient was a reminder of James Williams. Every patient was someone who deserved his full attention and best care. And slowly, Michael began to understand what medicine was supposed to be. It was not about prestige or reputation or awards. It was about serving people, all people, with skill and compassion. He also began making payments to James Williams just as he had promised. Every month, Michael sent money for medications, for follow-up appointments, for the physical therapy James needed. He sent more than required, wanting to ease the financial burden his failure had created. James sent him a card after the third payment. "Thank you for keeping your word. Most people don't. Maya still doesn't trust you, but she sees that you're trying. Keep going." 4 months into his training and community service, Michael was invited to speak at Emory University's medical school. Dr. Marcus Thompson had arranged it. Michael stood before 200 medical students and told them everything. He did not hide his shame. He did not soften his failures. He told them exactly how his bias had nearly killed James Williams. The room was silent when he finished. Then a young Black woman in the front row raised her hand. "Dr. Chen, how do we know you've really changed? How do we know this isn't just you doing damage control for your reputation?" It was a fair question. Michael thought carefully before answering. "You don't know," he said honestly. "I don't even know for sure. Bias is something I have to fight against every single day. Some days are easier than others. Some days I catch myself making assumptions and have to consciously correct them. This isn't something I fixed and now it's done. This is work I'll be doing for the rest of my life." Another student raised their hand. "What would you say to patients who might be afraid they're not getting good care because of who they are?" "I would say trust your instincts," Michael replied. "If you feel like your doctor isn't listening to you, if you feel dismissed or rushed or like your concerns aren't being taken seriously, speak up. Ask questions. Request second opinions. And if you're a medical student or a doctor witnessing biased care, speak up too. The nurse who reported my pattern of care probably saved future lives by doing so." After the talk, several students approached him. Some thanked him for his honesty. Some told him about their own experiences with bias in healthcare, either as patients or as medical students of color who were treated differently by their supervisors. One student, a young man who introduced himself as Marcus Jr., said, "My dad is Dr. Marcus Thompson. He talks about your case a lot. He says what happened to you could happen to any of us if we're not careful, if we don't examine our own biases and assumptions." "Your father is right," Michael said. "I thought I was a good person. I thought I was fair. But I had never really looked at my own beliefs and behaviors. I had never questioned the assumptions I carried. And that almost cost a man his life." 6 months passed. Michael completed his bias training. Dr. Brown gave him a certificate but also a warning. "This training is just the beginning, Dr. Chen. You've learned the concepts and done some internal work, but the real test is maintaining this awareness every single day when you're tired, stressed, and dealing with difficult patients. The real test is choosing to see every patient's full humanity even when it's inconvenient." "I know," Michael said. "Thank you for pushing me, for not letting me make excuses." "I didn't do it for you," Dr. Brown said bluntly. "I did it for all the future patients who will depend on you. Don't let them down." Michael returned to St. Vincent's Medical Center under strict supervision. He was not allowed to work independently. Another cardiologist reviewed all his patient interactions. His schedule was monitored to ensure he spent equal time with all patients. His diagnostic decisions were double-checked. It was humbling. He had been a department head, respected and autonomous. Now he was being watched like a resident fresh out of medical school, but he accepted it without complaint. This was part of earning back trust. His colleagues treated him differently now. Some were supportive, believing in second chances. Others kept their distance, uncomfortable with what he represented. A few were openly hostile, believing he should never have been allowed to practice again. One day in the break room, a young surgeon named Dr. Elizabeth Hart confronted him. "You know what bothers me most about your case? It's not just that you harmed patients. It's that you made the rest of us look bad. Now patients are wondering if their doctors are racist too. You've damaged trust in the entire medical profession." Michael could not argue with her. She was right. "You're right," he said quietly. "And I'm sorry. All I can do is try to rebuild that trust one patient at a time." "It's not enough," Dr. Hart said. "Sorry isn't enough when someone's life is permanently damaged." She was right about that too. Sorry would never be enough, but it was all he had, along with the commitment to be better every single day. 3 months into his supervised return to work, Michael was assigned a new patient. The man's name was Marcus Davis. He was black, 50 years old, and complaining of chest pain. Michael felt his heart race. This was a test. Of himself. Of his progress. Of everything he had learned. He took a deep breath and walked into the examination room. Marcus Davis looked nervous. Michael could see the wariness in his eyes, the hesitation in his posture. This man had probably experienced dismissive doctors before. "Good morning, Mr. Davis," Michael said, sitting down and making direct eye contact. "I'm Dr. Chen. I want you to tell me everything about what you've been experiencing. Take your time. I'm here to listen." For the next 45 minutes, Michael gave Marcus Davis his complete attention. He listened to every detail. He asked thorough questions about family history, lifestyle, stress levels, and symptoms. He explained every test he wanted to run and why. He treated Marcus Davis exactly the way he should have treated James Williams. When the appointment ended and Marcus Davis left with a comprehensive care plan, Michael sat alone in the examination room. His supervisor, Dr. Sarah Kim, came in to review the interaction. "That was excellent, Michael," she said. "Thorough, compassionate, and appropriate. That's the doctor you need to be with every patient." "I know," Michael said, "and I'm trying. But honestly, Sarah, it's exhausting. Not the medical work. The constant awareness. The constant checking of my own thoughts and assumptions. Making sure I'm being fair and thorough with everyone. It would be so much easier to slip back into old patterns." "I know," Dr. Kim said gently. "But that's the work. That's what change looks like. It's not easy or comfortable, and the fact that you're aware of how hard it is shows that you're taking it seriously." Michael thought about James Williams, about the man who had given him this second chance, about the promise he had made. "James Williams didn't choose the easy path either," Michael said. "He chose to forgive me when it would have been easier and more satisfying to destroy me. If he can do that hard work, I can do mine." Dr. Kim nodded. "Keep that perspective. Remember why you're doing this. Not just because the medical board requires it, but because it's right. Because your patients deserve it. That evening, Michael drove to visit James Williams as he did every few weeks. James's condition had stabilized but not improved. He still tired easily. He still needed constant medication. He still lived with the limitations Michael's negligence had caused. They sat in James's living room and Michael updated him on his progress. On the training, on the clinic work, on his return to supervised practice. James listened quietly, occasionally asking questions. When Michael finished, James smiled slightly. "You know what I think about sometimes?" James said. "I think about how much harder your path is than if I had just sued you. If I'd sued you, you could have paid a settlement, served whatever punishment the court gave, and moved on. You could have blamed the system or the lawyers or bad luck. You could have been a victim of circumstances." He shifted in his chair, his hand going to his chest in a familiar gesture. "But forgiveness demands more from you. It demands that you actually change, that you become better, that you take responsibility not because a court ordered it, but because it's right. That's the harder path. And some days, watching you struggle with it, I wonder if I did you any favors." Michael shook his head. "You gave me the greatest gift anyone has ever given me. You gave me the chance to be the person and the doctor I should have been all along. It's hard, yes, but it's worth it. Every difficult day is worth it." James studied him for a long moment. "I believe you mean that, and that's good. Because this journey you're on, it doesn't have an end date. There's no finish line where you can say you're done. This is who you have to be now, forever." "I know," Michael said, "and I'm ready for that. I have to be." As Michael drove home that night, he thought about the weight of forgiveness. It was heavier than punishment would have been. Punishment had a beginning, middle, and end. Forgiveness was an ongoing responsibility. Every day he had to prove he was worthy of the grace James Williams had shown him. But maybe that was exactly what he needed. Not a sentence to serve and forget, but a daily reminder to be better, to see every patient, to listen to every story, to give his best to everyone who trusted him with their care. The road ahead was long. The work was hard. But for the first time in his life, Michael Chen was walking that road with his eyes open, his heart aware, and his commitment unwavering. He had been given a second chance. Now he had to spend the rest of his life earning it. 2 years passed. 2 years of supervised practice, community clinic work, and constant self-examination. 2 years of proving himself worthy of the second chance James Williams had given him. 2 years of becoming a different kind of doctor. Michael Chen sat in his modest office at St. Vincent's Medical Center. It was smaller than the one he used to have as department head. The view was not as nice. The furniture was standard issue. But Michael had stopped caring about those things. They felt trivial now compared to what really mattered. His phone buzzed. A text from the Southside Community Health Clinic. They needed an extra doctor this Saturday. Someone had called in sick. Michael immediately texted back that he would be there. He no longer volunteered just 20 hours per month as required. He went almost every weekend because he wanted to, because the work mattered. The medical board had recently reviewed his case for the final time. His 2-year supervision period was complete. Every patient interaction had been monitored. Every decision had been reviewed. The conclusion was clear. Michael Chen had fundamentally changed how he practiced medicine. Dr. Patterson had called him to her office to deliver the news. "Dr. Chen, your supervised period is ending. You've met every requirement and exceeded expectations. You're free to practice independently again." Michael had expected to feel relief. Instead, he felt nervous. Will someone still be reviewing my patient interactions? Monitoring my care patterns? Dr. Patterson looked surprised. "That's not required anymore. You've completed your requirements." "I know," Michael said, "but I'd like it to continue, not as punishment. As accountability. I don't want to slip back into old patterns. I need people watching, keeping me honest." Dr. Patterson had smiled slightly. That's the first time in 30 years someone has asked to keep supervision after completing their mandated period. "But if that's what you want, we can arrange quarterly reviews." "Thank you," Michael said. "I need it." Now, walking through the hospital corridors, Michael noticed things he never had before. The way some doctors spent more time with certain patients. The way some nurses had to advocate harder for patients who did not speak English well. the systemic issues that went beyond individual bias. He had started speaking up about those issues. At staff meetings, he raised questions about language access, about wait times for different patient populations, about the need for cultural competency training for all staff, not just those who were mandated to take it. Some colleagues appreciated his advocacy. Others found him annoying, a reformed racist who was now overcompensating. Michael did not care what they thought. He cared about patients getting fair treatment. That afternoon, Michael had a full schedule. His first patient was Mrs. Chen, an elderly Chinese woman who spoke limited English. He took extra time to ensure she understood her medication changes, using a translation app when needed and speaking slowly and clearly. His second patient was a young black man named Deshaun, who came in worried about his heart. Deshaun was only 25 but had a family history of early heart disease. Michael spent 40 minutes with him, ordering comprehensive tests and explaining everything thoroughly. "My uncle went to a doctor last year," Deshaun said hesitantly. The doctor barely looked at him. Told him he was too young to worry about heart problems. He died of a heart attack 3 months later. Michael felt the familiar weight of those words. How many uncles, fathers, brothers had died because doctors did not take them seriously? "I'm taking you seriously," Michael said firmly. "Your family history is concerning. We're going to do a full workup. And Deshaun, if you ever feel like a doctor isn't listening to you, get a second opinion. Your life matters and you deserve thorough care." Deshaun looked relieved. "Thank you, Doc. I was scared to come in because I thought I'd get blown off again." After Deshaun left, Michael sat quietly for a moment. That fear, the fear of not being taken seriously by healthcare providers, was something his black patients carried into every appointment. It was a weight he had helped create through years of biased care, a weight he was now trying to lift, one patient at a time. That evening, Michael drove to a high school on the south side of Atlanta. He had been invited to speak to students about careers in medicine. Most of the students were Black and Latino, from families where no one had ever been a doctor. Michael told them his story, all of it. The success, the bias, the catastrophic failure, the second chance. The students listened intently. When he finished, several hands shot up. A young black girl in the front row asked, "If you could be racist and still be a successful doctor, how do we trust any doctors? How do we know they're treating us right?" It was a question Michael heard often. He understood why they asked it. "You can't always know," he said honestly, "and that's a problem with the healthcare system, not with you. But I can tell you what to look for. A good doctor listens without interrupting. They take your concerns seriously. They explain things clearly and answer your questions. They spend time with you, not just rush you out. And if you feel like you're not getting that, you have the right to ask for a different doctor or get a second opinion." Another student asked, "Why did you decide to change? Was it just because you got caught?" Michael thought carefully. "Getting caught forced me to face what I'd been doing. But the real change came from meeting James Williams and seeing him as a full human being for the first time. Seeing the life I'd damaged, the dreams I'd stolen. That's what broke through my defenses. Sometimes we need to be confronted with the real cost of our actions before we can truly change." After the talk, several students came up to him. One young man who introduced himself as Jamal said, "My mom almost died last year because a doctor didn't take her chest pains seriously. She's okay now, but it was close. Your story made me think maybe I should be a doctor. So I can be better. So I can be someone my community can trust." Michael felt tears prick his eyes. The medical field needs people like you. People who understand what it's like to be dismissed. People who will fight for their patients. If you decide to pursue medicine, come find me. I'll help however I can. The next Saturday, Michael arrived at the Southside Community Health Clinic at 7 in the morning. Dr. Washington greeted him with his usual gruff warmth. "You know you don't have to keep coming every weekend, right? You've completed your requirements." "I know," Michael said, "but I want to be here." Dr. Washington nodded approvingly. "Good. Because we've got about 50 patients scheduled today and we're short-staffed." "Hope you're ready to work." Michael was ready. He saw patient after patient, giving each one his full attention. An elderly man with uncontrolled diabetes. A young mother with high blood pressure who could not afford her medications. A teenager with asthma who had been using his inhaler sparingly to make it last longer. A middle-aged woman with chest pain who had been ignoring it for 3 months because she could not miss work. Each patient received Michael's best care. He spent as much time as they needed. He found ways to reduce their medication costs. He connected them with resources and programs. He listened to their stories and their fears. During his lunch break, Michael found Dr. Washington in his office surrounded by paperwork. "Jamal, can I talk to you about something?" Dr. Washington looked up. "Sure, what's on your mind?" "I want to do more," Michael said. "The clinic work is important, but it's not enough. I've been thinking about starting a foundation. Something that provides free cardiac screenings in underserved communities. Something that catches problems before they become emergencies." Dr. Washington leaned back in his chair. "That would be valuable. Heart disease kills too many people in our community because they can't afford preventive care. But a foundation takes money. A lot of money." "I know," Michael said. "I've been saving. I've sold my expensive car. Sarah and I are downsizing our house. I've been speaking at medical conferences and I'm donating all the speaker fees to this cause. It's not enough yet, but it's a start." Dr. Washington studied him for a long moment. "2 years ago, I didn't trust you. Didn't want you here. Thought you were just doing time to get your reputation back. But I was wrong. You've actually changed. Not performatively, actually." "I had to," Michael said simply. "I couldn't keep being who I was." "Well, count me in on your foundation idea," Dr. Washington said. "I'll help however I can." That afternoon, Michael received a call from Maya Williams. His heart immediately raced with worry. "Maya, is your father okay?" "He's fine," she said quickly. "Well, as fine as he can be. I'm actually calling because I'm graduating from nursing school next month. There's a ceremony. My dad wants to invite you." Michael was surprised. "Are you sure? I wouldn't want to make you uncomfortable." "Look, I'm not going to lie and say I've forgiven you the way my dad has," Maya said bluntly. "I still get angry when I think about what you did to him. But I also see that you've been keeping your promises. You've been helping with his medical bills. You've been doing the work to change. And my dad says you deserve to share in our celebration because you've been part of our journey, even if it started in the worst possible way." "I'd be honored to come," Michael said. "Thank you for including me." The nursing school graduation was held in a large auditorium. Michael sat near the back, not wanting to intrude. He watched as Maya walked across the stage to receive her diploma. James Williams stood up to cheer for her, moving slowly but standing nonetheless. The pride on his face was unmistakable. After the ceremony, Michael approached the Williams family. James greeted him warmly. Maya was more reserved but polite. James's mother, who Michael had learned was named Eleanor, gave him a nod of acknowledgement. "Congratulations, Maya," Michael said. "Your father tells me you're going to work in cardiac care." "I am," Maya said. "At Grady Memorial. I want to work with patients who look like my dad, patients who need advocates. They're lucky to have you," Michael said sincerely. James pulled Michael aside while the rest of the family took pictures. "How are you doing, Michael?" "And I want the honest answer, not the polite one." Michael had grown to appreciate James's directness. "Some days are hard. The constant self-monitoring is exhausting, and I still carry guilt about what I did to you. I don't think that will ever go away completely, but I'm doing work that matters now. I'm helping people. I'm becoming the doctor I should have been from the start. So despite the difficulty, I'm doing okay." James nodded. "Good, because I need to tell you something. I've been contacted by a few journalists. They want to do a story about what happened between us, about my decision to forgive you instead of suing you. They want to interview both of us." Michael felt a flutter of anxiety. Public attention was the last thing he wanted. "What did you tell them?" "I told them I'd think about it," James said. "But I wanted to talk to you first. I think telling our story could help other people. Other patients who need to know they have the right to demand good care. Other doctors who need to see what bias can cost. What do you think?" Michael took a deep breath. Every instinct told him to refuse, to keep his head down and avoid more public shame. But that was his old self talking. His new self understood that his story could serve a purpose beyond his comfort. "If you think it will help people, I'm willing to do it," Michael said. "I promise to tell my story publicly so others could learn." "This is part of that promise," James smiled. "I thought you'd say that. You've kept every promise you made to me. That means something." 2 months later, a long article appeared in a major medical journal. It detailed James Williams' case, Michael's failures, and the unusual resolution through forgiveness rather than litigation. It included interviews with both men, with hospital administrators and with medical ethics experts. The article sparked conversations across the country. Medical schools used it as a case study. Hospitals examined their own patterns of biased care. Patients shared their own stories of being dismissed or treated poorly because of their race. Some doctors criticized Michael publicly for making the profession look bad. Others thanked him for his honesty. Many reached out privately to admit they had their own biases they needed to examine. One email particularly moved Michael. It was from a doctor in Chicago who wrote, "I read your story and realized I've been doing the same thing, making assumptions about patients based on their appearance or background. Your story gave me the courage to look at my own practice honestly. I'm starting bias training next week. Thank you for your transparency. That was why the public shame was worth it." If his story helped even one doctor treat patients more fairly, then the discomfort was worthwhile. 3 years after the mediation meeting, Michael received an unexpected invitation. He was asked to join the hospital's Diversity and Inclusion Committee, to help develop policies that would prevent biased care, to train other doctors in recognizing and addressing their own biases. Michael accepted. He understood the irony of him, a person who had failed so spectacularly at fair treatment, now teaching others about equity. But maybe that was exactly why he should do it. Because he had lived the consequences of bias. Because he knew how easily good doctors could fail their patients. At the first committee meeting, he sat with doctors, nurses, administrators, and community representatives. They were designing new protocols for monitoring patient care equity, for ensuring that all patients, regardless of race or income or insurance status, received the same quality of care. "Dr. Chen, you have a unique perspective on this issue," the committee chair said. "What do you think is the most important change we can make?" Michael thought for a moment. Accountability, not just punishing doctors after they fail, but creating systems where bias is caught and addressed early. Regular reviews of patient care patterns, anonymous feedback from patients about their experiences, making it safe for staff to speak up when they see disparities, and teaching medical students from day one that bias exists in all of us, and that good medicine requires constantly examining our assumptions. The committee agreed. Over the next months, they implemented new policies. Mandatory bias training for all staff, regular audits of patient care patterns, patient advocates in the hospital to help navigate the system, language services readily available. Community feedback sessions. Michael was part of all of it, not as punishment anymore, but as purpose. One evening, 4 years after that terrible day when James Williams collapsed, Michael and James sat together in James's backyard. Maya had recently gotten engaged. She was planning a wedding and insisted that both her father and Michael should be there. "I never thought I'd see this day," James said, watching the sunset. "For a while there, I wasn't sure I'd survive long enough to see Maya get married. Now I'm going to walk her down the aisle again, for real this time, not in a hospital chapel with machines beeping." "I'm glad," Michael said quietly. "You deserve to be there for all of her important moments." James turned to look at him. "You know what I've realized over these past few years? Forgiveness wasn't just a gift I gave you. It was a gift I gave myself. If I'd spent these years in lawsuits and anger, I would have missed so much. My grandson's first words, my son's promotion, Maya's engagement. I would have been there physically but consumed mentally by bitterness." He paused. "And you've done something with what I gave you. You've actually changed. You've become the kind of doctor I needed you to be 4 years ago. Better late than never, I suppose." Michael felt tears in his eyes. "James, I can never repay what you gave me, but I'm trying to pay it forward. Every patient I treat well, every doctor I train, every policy I help create. That's me trying to honor your gift, I know," James said, "and that's all I ever wanted. Not revenge, not punishment, just for something good to come from something bad, for my suffering to have meaning by preventing other people's suffering." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, two men whose lives had collided in the worst way, and who had somehow found a path forward together. "You know what Maya told me last week?" James said eventually. "She said you're the reason she went into cardiac care. She said if a doctor could change as much as you have, then the healthcare system could change too. She wants to be part of that change." Michael smiled through his tears. "She's going to be an amazing nurse. Her patients are lucky, and so are yours," James said. "Not because you're perfect, but because you know you're not. Because you work every day to be better. That's what good medicine looks like. As Michael drove home that night, he thought about the long road he had traveled. From the arrogant doctor who measured patients' worth by their appearance and background, to the broken man facing the consequences of his bias, to the changed doctor who now fought for equity every day. The journey had been painful. The work was ongoing. The guilt would never fully disappear. But he had been given something precious, a second chance born from the grace of a man he had failed. Some people might call James Williams' forgiveness weakness. Michael knew it was the strongest thing he had ever witnessed. It took more strength to offer mercy than to seek revenge. It took more courage to believe in someone's potential for change than to write them off as hopeless. And that belief, that undeserved grace, had transformed Michael's entire life. Not because he was forced to change, but because someone believed he could. He pulled into his driveway and sat in the car for a moment. Tomorrow he would go back to the hospital. He would see patients with the awareness that each one was someone's James Williams, someone's father or mother or child, someone whose life mattered equally. He would continue speaking at medical schools, telling his story so young doctors would not make his mistakes. He would keep working at the community clinic, providing care to people who had been overlooked by the healthcare system. He would push for policies that created equity and accountability. And he would carry the weight of James Williams' forgiveness not as a burden, but as a responsibility. A daily reminder that grace demanded more than punishment ever could. It demanded that he become worthy of the second chance he had been given. Michael Chen walked into his house where his family waited. He was no longer the celebrated surgeon with the perfect reputation. He was a doctor who had failed, learned, and was becoming better every day, and for the first time in his life that was enough. Not because he had achieved perfection, but because he was finally doing the work that mattered, the work of seeing people, all people, every day, the work of proving that change was possible, that forgiveness could transform, that grace could redeem. That was his life's work now. Not seeking glory or awards or recognition, but honoring the gift James Williams had given him by becoming the doctor every patient deserved. The journey would continue tomorrow, and the day after, and every day for the rest of his career, because grace was not a destination. It was a path he would walk for the rest of his life, trying every day to be worthy of the mercy he had received. And in that constant striving, in that daily choice to be better, Michael Chen had finally found what it meant to be truly a healer.